My name is Ben Crew, and I'm the head prefect for this school year. This is Kiski's 131st school year. This school year will not be different from any of the others, in that we will continue to succeed in the classroom, on the athletic fields, and positively contribute to the school community. As you all know, we play our Fall Centennial Cup games against Mercersburg tomorrow. Our football, soccer, golf, and cross-country teams will be looking to earn points to help bring the cup back to Kiski. Our football team has just won their 11th straight game, and they will be looking to continue that streak tomorrow. We have a new multi-purpose outdoor sport court where Clark Hall used to stand, equipped with basketball hoops and lights that anyone can access. The student body is extremely lucky to have this. It's already been put to good use, and it will be for many years to come. Every athlete being inducted tonight certainly excelled on the athletic fields during his time here at Kiski, but they've also continued to exemplify the core values of Kiski: principles of integrity, humility, sportsmanship, tolerance, and service in their personal and professional lives. These are values that we are looking to instill in the student body today, and we are very grateful to have these inductees for our own students to look up to as they work on cementing their own legacies here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight, and I now have the pleasure of introducing our headmaster, Mr. Chris Bruningsson.
Well, good evening and welcome to our Hall of Fame ceremony this year. It's great to see all of you, and I'll say welcome back, and especially congratulations to the individual athletes and teams that are being honored tonight. Certainly well deserved, and we're happy to have you here. I'm just going to give you a very quick update about some things that have been happening at the school lately. As Ben mentioned, we had a positive opening of school. That's a picture of the multi-use court. Clark Hall has never looked better. Oh yeah, you people who were booing, really, I wish we could bring it back and have you sleep there tonight, but and we're about to open next week, but will be available for tours tomorrow, the new Ziegler Science Center, named after a beloved longtime teacher, 42 years tenure, Jake Ziegler. And that will house our physics labs and physical science and robotics, and we're excited about that. That's the building that was, for many of you, well, depending, if you were here in the 60s, it used to be science labs. But for a long time after that, it was the library, before we opened the Pigeon library. And recently we haven't been using that building, so we're real excited about that addition. We've had really great success with college placement. Folks always ask about that. And we just hired a fantastic new college counselor. And so we will continue to grow that program. Here, our football team for 2017 was undefeated. First time in half a century. Really huge news for us, very exciting. And so far this year, we'll knock on wood, right? We're 2-0 with a big game tomorrow against Mercersburg. And we'll be playing them in soccer, cross country, and golf as well. So a lot of activities tomorrow. I hope you all will be able to come out. And we'll have a halftime program and to celebrate the inductees tomorrow. Everybody always asks, how are you doing against Shadyside? And you may know that in the 90s, late 90s, they joined a public school sports league. So for a period of time, we didn't play them at all. And then we've started playing them just in certain sports. And so now we're playing them in soccer and hockey and lacrosse. And for last year, these were the results. And our new de facto rival for the past decade or so has become Mercersburg Academy. So the boys are all fired up and excited for our games tomorrow. We just launched a new marketing campaign over the summer, and after 9 months of focus groups and test driving different, there are all kinds of buzz phrases that the marketing people use, but we settled on this great new ad campaign slogan, Kiski is life-changing, and certainly something that all of you know and have lived and experienced, and some really great images to go along with that, and so that's really just starting to get some traction now. We're always looking for new ways to attract great kids to Kiski, and I can tell you that if you had a chance to spend some time with our student body, and you're always welcome to come up for a visit, in school's in session, you'd find a school that resembles the school that you knew. The kids are engaged and polite and respectful, and fundamentally that's what's always most important to us. A quick word about our capital campaign. We had initial goal of starting in 2012 was $12 million, and it kept growing and growing and growing, and we just finished. As of July 1st, we raised almost $34 million, so it's been a tremendously successful campaign. This is just a quick picture of some of the things that we did. The yellow are the projects that we completed in 2009 at the end of the first capital campaign. And then this last campaign, the athletic center and the new field and 3 dormitories that were upgraded and expanded. And this is where the former home of Clark Hall now has the court on it, and here's where the science center is next to the classroom building. So we're really excited about that. For next summer and beyond, in the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to be doing a complete renovation to the main classroom building, some new faculty houses, renovation to the dining hall, and as always, we're always raising money for scholarship funding. This year, by the way, our commitment is $5.2 million for scholarship funds, and we have about 65% of our student body is receiving financial aid. So it's always been I always tell people that Jack Pigeon was fond of calling this a blue-collar prep school, and we continue to have great socioeconomic diversity. It's always been, I think, something that makes Kiski special. This is a picture of the type of labs that we'll be installing when we do the upgrades to the classroom building next year with these modern type lab tables. Our longtime chemistry teacher and science department chair, Doug Yoder, is retiring at the end of this year. Some of you, he was your track coach maybe, or he was your cross-country coach or your chemistry teacher. And Doug has been here for a long time and made many contributions. But I said to him the other day, it's probably good that you're retiring, that we're modernizing these, because we just got him to use different colored chalk about a couple years ago. So, but we'll have a chance to celebrate Doug's contributions at the end of the year. And for faculty housing, we were planning to put in 2 new units up by where the old basketball courts and the tennis courts are, but we've looked really seriously, and I think what we're going to do instead is do a renovation of Reece Hall. So this is a postcard from the 1920s, what Reece Hall looked like, and our architects have put together a plan where actually for about the same cost, we'll have more square footage in 2 different units than we would if we built freestanding homes. And of course, in the process, we'll restore what's a beautiful building on campus. So we're excited about that project, and hopefully we'll be able to get that started in the spring. And finally, our beloved dining hall that hasn't seen renovations recently, like since it was built. And at some point, we'll keep that same kind of theme. We still do, family-style meals and still have waiters. Everybody always asks about that, boys serving as waiters. But the new dining hall will hopefully look something like that. So I think we may unfancy that a little bit. It's a little too fancy for teenage boys, but anyway, we'll do some upgrades and renovations to that space. So just a quick preview of some of the things we've just done, some of the things we will be doing. Of course, we couldn't do it without your help and without your support, and so we appreciate that very much. We appreciate you being with us tonight. So with that, I'll turn things over to our athletic director, Chris Spahn, and say to all of you, welcome back again. Thanks.
Good evening. We'll get things going right away. Just a couple procedural announcements. I'll introduce each individual inductee and team by reading the plaque that will be mounted in the Athletic Hall of Fame. Once I finish reading the plaque, we would like to invite each individual awardee and the speaker representing each team to the stage for a photo before he shares his remarks with the audience. I'll begin with the individual in chronological order with Alan Andreini. His plaque reads, Alan Andreini, class of 1964, made an instant impact at Kiski. He lettered in his first cross-country season and in each basketball and track campaign that followed. In addition to his 12 varsity letters, he earned the Coach's Award for cross-country in his junior and senior years and as a senior basketball player. Mr. Andreini was named a captain in each season of his senior year. He is remembered for setting the cross-country record virtually every time he toured the course in the Kiski yearbook. Mr. Andreini also set the mile and half-mile records during track season. His illustrious athletic career continued at Princeton University, where he was named All-Ivy 12 times and All-American 3 times. He broke the 44-year-old mile record at Princeton that was a world record when it was set, and placed 5th in that race at the national championships in 1968. Please help me welcome to the stage Mr. Alan Andreini.
All right, thanks. When the headmaster called me and he said that this was going to happen, I naturally thanked him and said it was exciting and moving and all that good stuff. And he said, listen, there's one other thing. I would like you to take 5 minutes and tell everybody what Kiski meant to you. And I said, is it true that you once asked Michelangelo if he could knock out the ceiling to the Sistine Chapel in 20 minutes? I said, 5 minutes? And he said, just keep it short. Just whatever you do, just keep it short. So I will. Before I do that, I do want to do one thing, which I've never done, and I think it's important. I'm obviously going to be talking about Mr. Pigeon, who was, who it was his reign when I was here. Most of us call it the reign of terror, but it was the reign. But Mr. Pigeon was a great judge of character. He was a great judge of men. He was a great judge of faculty, and of all the hundreds of faculty members who came through this school and all the people that applied for the job when he knew that he was going to be retiring, he chose Chris Bruningson. And I think tonight, when I see what's happened over the last 14 years to Kiski, if he's looking down tonight, and I suspect he is, I think he would be more proud of you than he would be of all of us going into the Hall of Fame. I came to Kiski in 1960 from Neville Island, better known as abject poverty. I came here and I had a problem. I begged my parents to let me play football, and my parents said, look, we just spent a fortune, $280 for braces, so you're not playing football. I didn't want to play soccer because they played that in communist countries, and I said, that would not play well back in the hood in Neville Island. So I sat with Mr. Brett, and I said to him, look, this is my conundrum. What do I do here? And he says, well, look, McGee, here are your options. He called everybody McGee. You can either run cross country. And I said, what is that? And he said, that is you run out on the golf course and up over the camp. And I said, that's stupid. And he said, well, there's another option for you. The other option is you can rake leaves and dig ditches all fall. And I looked him in the eye and I said, I live for cross country. I cannot wait to do more cross country. So I did it. And I had no idea what I was doing, not a clue. And my second week in a uniform, I was #1 on the team. And you know, it was kind of, it was a gift. I mean, because when I came to Kiski, I mean, I was like, I don't know if you watch The Big Bang Theory. I was, you know, Leonard Hofstadter. I mean, I was a geek of epic proportions, you know, with the flat top and the Coke bottle glasses, the 36-degree case of acne, and no bees. I mean, there was not a bigger worm in North America. And now I was doing this thing, and it was amazing, and I didn't know about it, and it didn't make sense to me, but it was cool. It was cool because for a minute, I wasn't a geek anymore. And then by the spring, everything came together, and I was a high school All-American, and in the last race of the year, which was the county championships at Latrobe, I lost in a photo finish to the guy who was the defending state champion, who was also happened to be in the same county. And I lost to the guy, and I dove at the tape, and it was a cinder track. I still have some of those cinders in my knee. Broke my glasses, I'm bleeding, and I'd broken the Kiski record, and I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting to be told what a stud muffin I am, and how cool I am, and so I just, go ahead, come on, just tell me. I know what you're gonna say, just say it. And Mr. Pigeon walked by me, and he said, "Clearly you didn't want it badly enough." I said, okay, moving right along. So on the bus trip on the way home, he said to me, look, in the last 50 yards, you gotta understand this, in the last 50 yards, it isn't about talent. It isn't about training. It isn't about how good you are. It's about will. It's about determination. It's about all the intangibles. And you don't have those yet. Now I'll tell you this, in the next 7 years that I ran, well, Jim Ryan did pound on me a few times like I was a drum when he was at Kansas and the world record holder, but I never lost a close race because I knew Mr. Pigeon was watching. Sophomore year came, things were going really well, another big year. First day of track practice, it was raining, so I thought it'd be kind of cool to wear a hat. Bad idea. So I wear the hat, and I know why I'm wearing a hat. I'm wearing a hat because I'm cool, because I'm a high school All-American, and I'm second in the class to Turley, and I'm crushing it. So Mr. Pigeon gives us the workouts, and you're supposed to do this, blah, blah, blah. We're just about ready to go. And he says, Andreini, get up here. Not a good tone in his voice. I just knew this would not go well. He said, nice hat. Why are you wearing the hat? I said, well, Mr. Pigeon, and I knew I was in trouble. And he said, why are you wearing the hat? I said, because it's raining, Mr. Pigeon. He said, no, you're not wearing the hat because it's raining. You're wearing the hat because you're cool. You're wearing the hat because you're better than everybody else, and you want to make certain everybody knows it. He said, let me tell you something. If I ever see you with another hat, and by this time, he's pulled the hat down over, I can see nothing. All I can do is hear him. He said, if you wear another hat, if you wear a piece of jewelry, if you wear anything that makes you look different than anybody on this team, I'm going to kick you off this team and next out of this school. So, okay, let's start the spring season. Yeah, that went pretty well. So then, end of the season, I don't make junior prefect, which was hard. I really wanted that because I knew that the junior prefects were the guys that made the senior prefect, and I thought things couldn't get worse, and they did. The letter arrived from Mr. Pigeon to my parents in June. And I can't remember the whole letter, but I do remember a couple, poignant little phrases like, acute underachiever, an embarrassment to the faculty and to me personally. I was a high school All-American, I was second in the class, and I was an underachiever. I remember that summer so well. It was the summer from hell. It was 2.5 weeks of hell with my father, then Bob Baker was running the camp, and Baker made certain that it was hell there, and then 2 more weeks with my parents, and then I went back to school. I hated Mr. Pigeon more than anything or any person in my whole life. And the entire junior year, I was committed to one thing, to prove him wrong, which is exactly what he knew he wanted. And I did. And it was a great year. And by senior year, we were pals. And while he was coaching football, he would, after every race, he would still, he'd get a report and he would critique me and say, clearly you broke the record, but, I heard you, slowed down coming in the last 100 yards. What's that about? So it was, you know, there was always the pushing. But it was a great year. And then the last meet of the year was Shadyside, the dreaded, hated Shadyside. First thing I learned at Kiski was hate Shadyside. Dr. Nostine, when I walked in freshman week, said, here's all the things you need to know. Hate Shadyside. And I said, why do we hate Shadyside? It's not important, just hate them, you'll understand later. And I said, okay, that seems reasonable to me. So it's the last meet of the year. They're our big rival. We knew it's going to be a close race. I win the mile, I win the half mile, and I anchor the winning mile relay, and we win by a point. It's like the seventh game of the World Series. There's a pile of bodies all over the track, and I get up, and I just, you know, it was incredibly euphoric, and he's not there. Not there. I'm saying, that's weird. So we have a prefect meeting that night, and we're electing prefects for the next year, and we're at his house, and it's about 11:30, and he's already given the speech about elect prefects who are going to uphold the integrity, the quality, and the spirit of the school. Don't elect your buddies. Elect people who are going to care about Kiski. And we did. And then we were leaving, and, you know, I just left, and I was like the third one to leave, and he said, Alan, come here. He'd now gotten to call me Alan, which was a big deal. He said, I think there's a letter in your mailbox at Old Main. So I went over, and I found this. 25 May 1964, Kiski Springs School, Salzburg, Pennsylvania. Dear Alan, I am writing this just following today's meet with Shadyside, which we both know is the last meet you will ever run for Kiski. I don't know exactly what to say, but somehow to convey to you the tremendous thrill and feeling of pride I got in watching you, and at the same time, the genuine feeling of sadness at realizing that this was the last one for us. You finished it today like the champion you've always been, and I know you will always be. Coaching you is an experience I shall always cherish and shall, I'm sure, boast about all my years. You started as a champion, you finished as a champion, and I'll always remember you as a champion. Congratulations from your coach, who was also your friend and admirer. What does Kiski mean to me? Everything.
Our next inductee is Edward Denny. Edward Denny, class of 1977, set the 500-yard freestyle school record for Kiski. The senior captain was an exceptional swimmer who excelled in distance events. Mr. Denny carried his skill set to the collegiate level, where he set West Virginia University natatorium records in the 1,000-yard freestyle and the 1,650-yard freestyle. The WVU captain and Outstanding Athlete Award winner also set Atlantic 10 conference records on his way to 3 conference championships in the mile event, qualifying twice in that race for the national championship meet. Mr. Denny also earned an invitation to the 1980 United States Olympic Trials, where he placed 13th in the 1,500-meter freestyle and 16th in the 800-meter freestyle. A decorated coaching career followed, highlighted by 3 Coach of the Year awards and the production of dozens of All-American swimmers. Ladies and gentlemen, Edward Denny.
Okay. Thank you very much. Before I say what I'm about to say, I'd first like to recognize a couple of people. My sister Leslie, my younger brother John, my older brother Jim and his wife Kim, who when I swam they were probably my biggest fans. And probably more importantly now, they're my biggest base of support. I'd also like to introduce Mary, who's sitting right here. We've known each other since 4th grade. We wrote to each other, not texts, not emails. We wrote to each other all 4 years I was at Kiski, and for many years beyond that, several years beyond that. And like most things, we kind of went our separate ways, but after many, many years and numerous cracks in our hearts, we have found our way back to each other. And I'm very, very happy that she's able to be here tonight with me. When I received a letter informing me of the induction, and it's had in red letters, Kiski Hall of Fame, I opened it up, and the first person that I got in contact with was Sandy. I sent him a message, email, and said, I'm in. He sends me an email back and he says, haha, me too. And I started smiling then, and I haven't stopped smiling since, because to me, as great an honor as this is, to go in at the same time, to be inducted at the same time as with perhaps the greatest teammate anybody could ever have, is an honor on par to the plaque. And to have it, I'm assuming our plaques are going to be next to each other and over there? Okay, perfect. Even better. As I've said, I could be up here for hours telling stories about Sandy and me and our swimming careers. And but I'll tell you too, this is just 2 quick ones. You can't find a greater teammate who not only teaches you how to drive a manual transmission in a 1963 Buick Opel Kadett that we bought from Mr. Ziegler for $350. He also, again, great teammate, taught me how to get the RPMs up to just the right number in a 1968 Chevy Camaro before popping the clutch to burn the maximum amount of rubber in the parking lot of Morris Harvey College. So you know, those are life skills that you keep forever. In addition to the 4 absolute greatest coaches that I had the privilege to swim for, starting with Mr. Pigeon, then on to Greg Olson in Charleston, West Virginia, then Dr. Kevin Gilson at WVU, and then Mr. Richard Schulberg at Germantown Academy. Those 4 coaches took me to levels of success that a skinny little kid from Derry never could have imagined were possible. But there were 3 things that occurred that directly lead to me standing here, and if even one of them had not occurred, I would not be standing here in front of you. The first one is, I would like to ask Mr. Robert Gastel to please stand up. The first thing that happened was in the fall of 1971, he sent out a notice to all the area junior high schools and high schools telling about Winter Swim Club at Kiski School and the Kiski Swim Club. And we had no idea what that was. To be honest, I don't think I'd never seen a pool inside a building before, and we just thought it was a place to go swim in the wintertime. So, Mr. Gastel, if you hadn't sent that out, I wouldn't be standing here. And so thank you for that. The next thing that occurred was about a year later. We were at swim club practice, and one night, and I think this is the first time I'd ever seen Mr. Pigeon before, because I don't remember him coming to practice with the swim club. He came to practice one night, and when we were done, there was myself, Kurt Butkovitz, Mark Schremer, Sandy, and I keep thinking there was somebody else, but I can't think of who it was. And Mike Yeah, but he was a year younger, so. Well, anyway, so Mr. Pigeon comes down to practice, and he has us gathered there, and we're all the same age, and I don't know, maybe he started with me, and he said, do you guys want to go here to school? And I said, I'll go, and I turned to Kurt, I said, I'll go if you go, Kurt. Kurt turns to Mark, says, I'll go if you go, Mark. Mark turns to Sandy, Sandy says, I live here, I'm going here to school anyway. So if Kurt or Mark, but Sandy, if that had not occurred, I would not be standing here tonight. The opportunity to come here. And the third thing that happened was early in the fall semester at WVU, my brother Jim sitting with me in Dr. Kevin Gilson's office. I'm telling him, there are more people on my dorm floor than I graduated with from Kiski. I don't think I can do this. This is just too big. There's too much. And Jim said to me, stick it out for the first semester and then see how you feel. So Jim, thank you for the encouragement. If you had not been sitting there, I wouldn't be standing here tonight. So those three things were so crucial to me being here. The other thing that makes Kiski special is every summer after we got back from training with whatever, down in Charleston or at Germantown Academy, that last summer I swam, I'd come back here to Kiski to tour and just to visit before classes started at WVU. And inevitably I would park at the swimming pool and then go in. So at the end of the summer of 1980, after coming back from Irvine, California, I go up and I'm looking in the window down in the pool, and there's Mr. Pigeon at the far end of the pool doing sit-ups. And so I went down to talk to him and just see how everything was going and tell him how the summer went, which he already knew how we did. And I said to him, we lived here. We were here coaching, going to classes, living. I said, we could have been like Mercersburg Academy. We could have been like Petty School. And again, this is where I think what makes Kiski special. He said to me, I figured if you guys wanted to swim in college, I wanted to make sure there was something left. And I think that's what Kiski does. You have us prepared to go on to do something else great from here. And again, I think that's what makes Kiski special. There were two things that were completely, also really special about that, what he said to me was, I thought to myself, and now as a coach, I always think of this, I thought, what an egoless thing to say as a coach, because you want the kids to be great. And as we all know, probably one thing Mr. Pigeon didn't lack was an ego. And for him to be egoless to say that. The other thing that was most amazing too, he never broke rhythm doing sit-ups the whole time he was talking to me. The whole time he was talking, he never broke. So again, I think Kiski has us very well prepared for doing something good here, but having something left to go on from here. The last thing to me that makes Kiski special, and this is going to be a request to the headmaster, to Kiski present and to Kiski future. A little more than 4 months ago, our mother passed away. And as we're cleaning out her house to get it ready to sell, I find in the upper right-hand drawer of the dresser in her bedroom a stack of letters from Kiski. She had kept every single one of them, starting with the one from Mr. Diiorio, telling me I'd been accepted to start classes in the fall of 1973, to the very last one Mr. Pigeon sent upon graduating. And as I read through all the letters, and they were in order too, the dates, she had them there, and I never knew they were there. But as I read through them all, there was one that really stood out, and again, this is where I would ask Kiski to continue this. In it, he says, after he tells what a great person I am and a scholar athlete, a stud scholar and all that, he says in the letter, he said, Ed still needs a lot of encouragement and an occasional pat on the back. And sometimes, of course, he even needs an occasional light kick in the seat of the pants. Now, for those of us who know Mr. Pigeon, I don't remember too many light kicks in the seat of the pants. I remember a couple where I thought he was lining up for a field goal attempt from the 50-yard line into a headwind in a driving rainstorm. but I guess you got to tell the parents, tone it down a little bit for them. But what I would like to ask Kiski present and Kiski future to do, first off, thank you for this pat on the back. And I would like to ask you to continue to give us, all of us that are Kiski boys forever, continue to give us a pat on the back and even that light kick in the pants when we need it. So, thank you.
The big one will go up tomorrow. Well, next up now, it's a little duet going on. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our next inductee, John A. Sandy Pigeon Jr. Sandy Pigeon, class of 1978, converted countless yards in the Kiski pool into many race victories and team points for the Cougars. The 1978 team captured the Independent Prep School League Championship with a 10-0 record that included a dual meet victory over the reigning PA state champions. That season ended with a 9th place finish at Eastern Championships. He set the 200-yard individual medley school record, and the senior co-captain was the county champion in the 200-yard IM and the 500-yard freestyle. Mr. Pigeon was named a Prep School All-American after placing 4th in the 100-yard breaststroke at Eastern Championships. His aquatic dominance continued at the University of Pittsburgh as a senior co-captain, Eastern Intercollegiate Champion in the 400-yard IM and 200-yard breaststroke, MVP, 1980 Olympic Trials consolation finalist, and later a U.S. Navy SEAL officer. Please welcome John A. Sandy Pigeon Jr.
Get the forehead right. Well, thanks, guys. Before I start, it's really fun to see Bob Gastel here, my first coach, as Ed alluded to, and also Uncle Rino Diiorio. Where are you? There you are. I'm glad you're here. I was missing you. I'm sorry. I apologize for not getting you to the Pitt Pit Hall of Fame thing. I kind of am going a different direction in this little speech. Mary Grace, when I asked her, hey, what do you want to hear? And she said, well, I want something that I can show the kids later. So I'm kind of going in a direction. And so since we got a couple of kids, oh, the head prefect too. Yeah, all right. You better listen up. Okay. Pass this on. So I want to thank you guys for this. This is a lifetime dream almost for me to be standing here as a little kid from Salzburg, Pennsylvania, but a kid who actually grew up in the front yard, looking at the Kiski boys and always wanting to be one. I also wanted to say, Chris, there's some things I was going to say to her, but I got a new name for Chris Bruningsson. It is now called the Clarkinator. He is the man who finally brought down Clark Hall. We say, well done, Chris. But honestly, Chris, you've done a magnificent job, brother. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. The place looks amazing. The kids are doing great. Well done. Keeping it up. Keeping the faith. Steve Szilagyi, you still owe me 2 morning practices from 1986. But since your dad did more laps than you, God bless him. And I got to tell a quick story. I don't know why this flashed through my head. Part-time, I go down and I help the Marine Special Operations Command teach the young inductees that are coming in how to approach tribal chiefs in Afghanistan, because there's a certain way you have to do it. And I learned my Russian accent from remembering his Russian history classes. So you can tell your dad that, because we've had many talks on that. So I'm on my kafaya and my man jammies and making sure that they can do cultural engagement. I remember as a kid, 2 pictures on the wall in the pool, one of Bob Gastel and one of Billy Bauer, titled Kiski's Best. And I always dreamed of being in that category. Those 2 pictures were definitely motivators. So I had a couple of kids, and Ed is, one my teammate. geez, Pitt and West Virginia were huge rivals in the East, but I always, even though most of the, we're screaming back and forth at each other, Ed and I were always, talking away over there like we're a couple of traitors to our teams. But our friendship goes way back, and I used to at nationals would count for Ed during the 1,500 meters at nationals all the time. So that was really cool. But so how did a couple of kids like Ed and myself get to where we were? We took the first scary steps. My dad told us in 1977 that we really needed to start to make a big push. And so we bought that little Opel Kadett, and I don't know if you guys saw that in the lobby, but this thing was, half the floorboard was out, but it was structurally sound. Uncle Jake wasn't going to let us get killed. But, and it had a stick in the floor, a little speaker, a little AM radio that used to sit right here. We didn't have, satellite radio or anything. And we bought that thing for the $350, and we knew it was functionally sound. And we set off for a renowned club team that Ed knew down in Charleston, West Virginia, a lot of junior national finalists and things like that. And we knew little about our living accommodations, but we found out we were going to pay $50 to stay in these rooms at Morris Harvey College, which is now the University of Charleston, which at the time was not exactly a place where academic geniuses lived in those summer months. And we got exposed to some particularly, quote, interesting dudes. You remember Vinny? Oh my God. Anyway, those guys were all doing do-overs for academic misfortunes. And that was an education in itself. So Ed worked as a busboy between the morning and afternoon workouts. I worked in a flop house. Get this, the Harley Hotel. And which Kiski alum Guy Bucci, who was a prosecutor in Charleston, got me, and I worked for a guy who could not read or write English, spoke broken English with much Italian. Yeah, you can figure it out. And I was paid out of the cash register. It was quite an interesting experience from, the pristine Kiski campus, seeing my first look at what we shall say were some pretty shady characters in the hotel. And, but the point I want to make is we took those first scary steps. Those were scary steps. We were a couple of young prep school kids going to a pretty interesting area, to say the least, so that we could become better swimmers. And we certainly upped our game that summer. I mean, we really did a lot of yardage, and we learned a lot. And really, that was the summer that changed our lives. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that summer changed my life. We took our fears. We took that first scary step. Later on, I wanted to take the SEAL challenge, but again, it all begins with that first scary step, picking up the phone, calling the recruiter. Those first days at Officer Candidate School were no picnic. Who are these chuckleheads yelling at me anyway? Why do I have to learn celestial navigation and maneuvering board for SEAL training? Were they obstacles? Yep. But we learned to take life 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. As my wife's grandmother used to say, yard by yard, life is hard. Inch by inch, it's a cinch. So that's the only way you make it through, and your fellow trainees remind you of that each day. And if you succumb to the proposition that this training is going to go on for 2 years until you actually get to operate in the field, and it did, it was about 2 years, there's no way you're going to make it. So I want to leave you with a thing we had in the teams all the time. An elephant is eaten 1 bite at a time. Meaning if you look at what you're aspiring to do, you certainly don't look at the length of time, the difficulty of the endeavor. You take it 1 day at a time. And you take that first scary step each day. And by the way, I got to eat elephant in Zimbabwe. My wife didn't want me to say that, but that's another story. So they're eating a lot of elephant in Zimbabwe right now, trust me. To the students here, you guys took your first scary step and come to Kiski. And we all had butterflies in that first day, me most of all, and Sam's going to have the same thing, Chris. Trust me, we're going to need to talk afterwards about that. But you take it minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. People who don't aspire to follow those God-given talents by simply not taking that first scary step often ask themselves, what if, for the rest of their lives? It matters not what the endeavor is, as long as it is something that you want to do and have some small God-given talent for it. It matters that you take it on. People come up to me and say all the time, I could never do that. And I ask them, why would you want to do it? You know, and people have asked me, well, you know, I could never be a CEO. Well, yeah, but you didn't want to be, so what's your point? You know, take what you have, take what God has given you and move out. You know, I couldn't be an astrophysicist. I have no desire to. I could not be on Wall Street, no interest. I just and still enjoy each day, rough as it was, and we work hard to pay our dues, to get to those positions. We like what we do, and I tell you, that's a true privilege and a real blessing, and it's something that I learned here. Take anything that you can do well, take it on, and move out. But it's got to be said over, you know, many, many times. You guys have all heard, especially, you know, the head prefect down here, you've heard don't quit 1,000 times. Well, you know, nothing is more true in life. If you learn nothing else in this school, you will learn never, never quit. So, take it, run with it. You're going to have trials, but trusting in what He has given, what God has given you will reap rewards. Don't just try to make it, because you won't. Don't just try the minimums. Talk is cheap, actions are not. Strive, fail, and get up again. God may have a different plan for you than what you thought, but we have to be willing to let Him lead us. Derogate nos Domine. What's our school's motto? Lead us, O Lord. Our school is something I've learned a little bit more now that I've been in seminary. Holds much more than I ever realized. I never realized in my wildest expectations. Now I've taken the first steps in going to seminary, because the only scripture I ever read was from Christmas cards smattered with the occasional hymns we sang in Glee Club. And now I'm doing Hebrew exegesis, you know, in the Old Testament. What, are you kidding me? But you take it each night, and you just keep driving on. Your gut instincts are God-given. And without getting into the deeper theological aspects of it, your deepest gut feelings are what you should follow, not what feels better or is more convenient or what might make more money or get you more prestige. One thing that has helped me over the years is that I learned from my first CO was to take the man in the mirror test. And this is something my dad told me about a long time ago as well. Everybody's pontificated about my dad, so I'll kind of just tell you what he has taught me and what this school has taught me. The man in the mirror test is something I take every morning. At the first time you get up in the morning, you are at your lowest point psychologically, everything else. And when especially if you're facing morning practice. But you're also going to find that you will be most brutally honest with yourself when you look yourself in the mirror each morning, and you should ask yourself, no matter what it cost me, did I do the right thing? The phrase, I should have done, will become more frequent in your thinking. Don't beat yourself up about it. Take the first scary step, run with it, and don't quit. The quitting and the rationalizing that quitting can be a disease that is difficult to overcome. Well, I tell you, if I had a dime for every time I heard that from my old man, I'd be a rich man. I could pay for seminary right now. But that is a huge thing. I remember I had to stop swimming at the Greater Pittsburgh Swim Club. It was Billy's father's swim club, and my old man gave me a ration for a year. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't do anything. And he said I quit. I said, well, Mom just doesn't want to try to be there anymore. But, you know, it is something that he took very, very seriously. Ed and I both knew we were going to leave the safe confines of Kiski, and it was a rough go, but we didn't quit, and God provided the rest. So I wanted to thank you for this honor. As a little kid who always wanted to be a Kiski boy from the time I could walk. And Chris and I have chatted, and I just chatted with Megan about how fun it's going to be for Sam to grow up here. Though the headmaster's kid has its own, shall we say, challenges. And it's a humbling honor to be put next to the greats like Billy Bauer, Bob Gestel, and especially one of my best friends, Ed. We started off together in swimming, and all the other greats in the Kiski Athletic Hall of Fame. And I've still got many first steps, but you guys got to get up and keep taking those steps. Especially right now as I'm doing the doctoral level work in, doing doctoral level work. If my old man could see me right now, he'd say, what are you thinking about, lad? So, oh well, I'm doing it. So I want to thank you guys very much for this honor. It truly is an honor. I'm very seriously humbled about this whole thing, and may the Lord bless you in each step of it that you take. God bless. More wall candy.
Yeah, there you go. Congratulations.
Thanks, brother.
Our final individual inductee is John F. Mela. John Mela, class of 1983, amassed a high volume of throwing points for his Kiski track and field teams. Mr. Mela still holds the javelin record at the time of his induction, with the second best throw falling over 10 feet behind his mark. That record, set in 1948 by Albert Schwartz, was 33 years old when Mr. Mela first captured it during the 1981 season. Mr. Mela's distance also placed him ahead of Kiski legend and two-time Olympic decathlon gold medalist Bob Mathias, 49. As a senior, Mr. Mela placed second in the discus event by a foot at the Independent Prep School League Championship and won the javelin event. Mr. Mela's consistent throwing points set a stable foundation for overall Kiski team success during his time as a Cougar. Please welcome to the stage, John F. Mela.
I'm highly honored here today and very overwhelmed this happened, and I didn't think the record would stand that long. It's a long time. I was an outdoorsman, I was a pretty great woodsman and spear chucker. I used to make spears, you know. I killed a rabbit or two with them, but there was some coaches that really helped me incredibly, which are here. Jim Dangle, the head coach. We had a great track here and a lot of years there. And Mike Roberson, he was a javelin, he's my teacher and got me in the best steps, you know, to throw the javelin in the best way I could. Because I could throw things, but not the way, you know, the technique and everything. It's, you know, the steps are twice as long as this stage, you know, and get there and give your best toss. But I always choked. I choked a lot at the events. I could throw farther in practice, but I think I could have thrown farther by record, but oh well. I still got the record, and and I'm on the same page as Bob Mathias, so that's even says something too. So I'm down here, he's way up here, but I'm still on that page. But also, I wish he was here tonight. Doug Yoder was very instrumental and a track coach and a friend to this day. We built a house together. He kind of influenced me on, I do a lot of carpentry and timber frame work, and he's really a good guy, and he's been here, I think, maybe 2 years before I came to Kiski, somewhere in there. How many years? 42 years? Okay. But he turned me towards carpentry, and coming out of Kiski, there's not a whole lot of carpenters come from Kiski, I don't think. But the ones that come out of it, I guarantee are pretty good, because they definitely persevere their trade, and that's what Kiski, I think, definitely helps you do, is persevere what you really like to do. You might not know what you like to do when you get out of Kiski. It might take a while, but once you find it, you got those. I mean, besides my mom and dad, Kiski has helped me incredibly, because I did not want to come here. I tell you that. And for like 2 years after I was here, I still didn't want to be here. But once you know, you have the camaraderie with guys, and you live with them, and you breathe with them, and your teachers and your coaches, who are one of the same. I mean, my art teacher and my head track coach. Doug Yoder was my chemistry and running coach, which I hated to run. But they're just, the teachers and the guys here really helped me tremendously. But I'm just trying to come up with, I just enjoyed my stay here after a while. You know, it was tough. It's just tough. Like if you don't work at something, you're not going to benefit from it. We all know that. And that's what they make you do here at Kiski, is learn it and persevere. Okay, thank you very much. I'm very honored. Okay, thank you.
Our first team to induct is the 1966 football team. The 1966 football team finished 6-0-1, falling victim only to dusk. The Kiski Cougars were locked in a tie with the Western Reserve Pioneers when it became too dark to complete the game. Before that contest ended in a deadlock, Kiski won its first 2 road contests. The Cougars beat Laurel Borough in the final quarter and topped Ford City with a dominant second half. Following the WRA game, Kiski demolished Shady Side on Parents' Day. The stellar Nichols offense was turned away by the staunch Kiski defense, and the home slate was completed with another nail-biter against University School. Kiski held on in a seesaw battle at Mercersburg to take the final win. Accepting this honor on behalf of his teammates is Russell C. Swank III.
Thank you. If our great quarterback was here, Don Giacomelli, who went on to have a great season at Bucknell, he would have told you, you know, don't give this to Russ because Russ drops all. I think he targeted me 6 times before he gave up, and I knocked down 3 of them. Anyways, my pals here, Dave Nicholson, Eddie Preston from the team. And honestly, I don't know how it worked out this way, but the 3 skinniest, littlest guys are the ones that are here tonight. All those big guys were the ones that protected us and made it all possible. But as you know, in any team, what really made it possible was the combination of a lot of great players. And I'd like to remember some of them now. Some of them are no longer with us, but we had, in the middle there, we had David Tosh, who was a wrecking machine, defensive and offensive tackle, and Earl Hill, who was a power fullback and middle linebacker, went to Louisville. But again, we were just so fortunate, and actually Dave and I, Dave was the center, and I was the tight end, and we were the 2, skinniest guys on the line. Thank goodness, number 66, front row, fourth from the left, 185-pound undefeated wrestler, was between us. And so that helped an awful lot. But as you know, so it takes so much to make a team, and if I wish I could say all of their names and talk about each one of them, because it was a special time. And I wanted to say it again, who said it, but yeah, we did kill Shady Side. Alan, you'd like that. But it was special, not because of the players, it was also special because of the coaches. And behind me is Rino Diiorio, who was an assistant coach then, who brought energy and skills and leadership and excitement. And along with a partner of his, Whitey Schrock, we had these two energetic young coaches. And then we were blessed to have Jack Pigeon as our head coach. It was Jack's last year's head coach of the football team. And I was smiling to hear all the stories tonight. And I'm going to tell one story how many of you heard this story a bunch of times? I know. But the ref came up to me in a game and said, "Son, you're bleeding. Sidelines. Go out to the side. You're out. Get that fixed." And I don't know what I was thinking of, because I actually walked off the field and walked right by your father. I don't know, and Jack grabbed me and he says, "What happened?" And I said, "Somebody stepped on me." And Jack thought for a second. He says, "What were you doing on the ground?" And I thought, no, I'm not going to answer him. I'm just going to train her. And because all I wanted to do then is get it fixed and get off the sidelines, because the sidelines with Jack were scarier than being in the game. But anyway, to the players that aren't here tonight, and perhaps Earl and Greg Mathias will be here tomorrow, to Jack Morgan, the wide receiver who could catch anything, Don Giacomelli, a great quarterback who was captain of Bucknell, Lester James, a fast, big tailback, Dale Armstrong, another big, fast tailback, Rick Goldsmith, an extremely tough blocking back, Andy DeVilling, a great linebacker. I wish I could go on. We were just Bill Burley, defensive end. It was a special time, and on behalf of everybody on that team and the coaches, I say thanks very much for thinking about us and including us. And one more thing, for instance, my two friends here, they have not seen the new athletic facility. And so I encourage any of you who haven't been to this great place, go. You'll love it. It's a little different than when we were here, but please go, and thanks for coming back to Kiski. Thank you.
Our next team is the 1979 cross-country team. The 1979 cross-country team finished its season as undefeated interstate prep school league champions. That unblemished record represented a remarkable turnaround from the previous campaign that included only one win. The drastic evolution was hastened by a commitment to a rigorous 800-mile off-season training program developed by Coach Nagel. Days with 3 training sessions and a reconfiguration of the home course to include 2 arduous climbs of the summer camp hill paired conditioning with remarkable grit. Each home victory was punctuated by ringing the bell in Brett Park and robust support from Kiski faculty members and classmates along the challenging course. The undefeated season was secured when Kiski defeated the defending champion by taking the final scoring spot. Accepting this award on behalf of his team, please welcome their head coach, James Nagel.
down here? This is going to be a little bit dangerous because I'm changing pretty much everything I had on here. The first time I got tricked into giving a speech was with my co-coach, Andy Muffley, and when I did that at the end of the 78 season, he was an English teacher, I was the art teacher. He says, "You're giving a speech." Southern Comfort got me through that speech. He didn't know that until tonight. I have to tell you that I'm very honored to be included in this group, to be with Mr. Andreini, Mr. Denny, Mr. Pigeon, and John Mela. I can't even tell you, I was smiling the whole time. Great. So thank you for recognizing this team. I have to tell you that it's been 39 years, and these guys are so special. My wife and I can just talk about each one of them individually. They're just fantastic people. All right, what are we going to talk about? They built their own course. They were out in the woods with saws and hammers and rakes, and I had prep guys out there running around with axes. If I did that today, maybe I wouldn't be here right now. Can't do that. All right, something that made the team really special was that when the top runners finished their race, they waited for every runner to finish. They were there for every teammate. There were over 40 guys on the team. And that brings me to another point that they were talking about right before this event here. They felt it was so special to go from the year before to the 79 team, and so I figured I better mention something about that. The coach the year before had passed away, and Mr. Muffley and I were hired to coach the team. Well, we were there for preseason. We had 4 runners. And I said, "Where's the team?" And I remember one of them saying, "We thought Mr. Pigeon was going to coach the team, so that's why a lot of guys didn't show up." So I had 4 guys. Mr. Muffley and I had 4 guys. Mr. Pigeon said, "I'm going to give you somebody." And he did. We got this little freshman guy, Rob Bulware, who's in the Hall of Fame because he was such a great athlete, so I thank Mr. Pigeon for that. Mr. Meal said, "I can't keep all these soccer guys, so when I cut them, I'm going to encourage them to run cross country." So we ended up having a team that year. But to go from that team that was pounded in the Interstate Prep League like nobody's business to having a team that went undefeated the next year was really remarkable, especially when University School was the defending champs and they had every runner back. What made it even tougher was that we had to go to their place. I don't know if they still do the same thing, but we had to ride that 3-hour bus ride to Cleveland, which seemed more like a 10-hour ride. Not comfortable at all. And when you get to these away meets in the prep league, football team knows when they're playing, 1 o'clock. Soccer team knows when they're playing, noon. Cross country team, you'll run at halftime. When's that going to be? Well, it's going to be at halftime. Well, if the football team is running plays or passing plays, it can drag out. And if there's injuries, it can drag out more. So you don't know what time you're running. Well, where are you running? It's not like running on a track. You have to see the course. The coach sends one of his runners to our locker room and says, "We have 2 cross-country courses." Oh, coach wants you to see both courses. It's, I don't know, 39 degrees, it's raining, it's muddy, it's miserable. He wants us to see 2 courses. I don't know if the runners will remember it, but I said, "You can leave now. You can see your coach, ask him which course he wants us to run. Then come back. Tell us which course we're running. We'll run any course, but we're not going to see 2 courses." I think Mr. Pigeon would have been proud of that comment. It came out, usually I need time to think about things, but that one came right out. We couldn't be out there for an hour and a half, walking around in the rain, looking at 2 courses. We needed to know where we were running. It's a miserable day. Our number 5 runner wasn't able to run. I can't remember if he was hurt or injured, but that came into play. It was very important. They had every runner returning. We didn't see them. We were out in the rain. We were warming up. The runners were going to wear their singlets and shorts. I told them no shirts underneath. If it's raining, it's going to get heavy. We just have to be out there. We're going to be cold, but we're going to warm up the best we can. So we never saw their team. They came out of a shed. They were where every runner had things under their singlet. Phil DeHaas goes, they don't want to run. They ran, and they ran well. They took first and second. We got 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's a big surprise. They got the next 2 places. After 8 runners were in, it's 18-18. Next runner in wins. My number 5 isn't running. Rob Boyer beats their guy. Mr. Pigeon, at the end of the season, when I said we beat Shadyside, we won the league, he said, no, you won it against University School. I want to talk about the runners, remarkable group, as everybody here is, and you just missed out on 3 pages, and that's good. 4 pages. I also brought a prop that I'm not using. When you're an art teacher and you're not used to this, you have to do things to liven up, but this is so serious tonight, I couldn't do it. All right. Rick Curtis is here tonight, and we had a talk before this event, and I wrote down, my impression of Rick was he was always smiling, always ready to go. He goes, I hated running. He says, I wanted to swim. He said, they made me run. He said, I hated fartlek, I hated intervals, I hated all of that. My perception was, this guy is really good. He likes it, he's a joy to be around. You know, that's not how he saw it. My best, well, not my best memory, but my most vivid memory of him is stepping on a hornet's nest. I'm sure he remembers, up at the camp. The hornets only went after him. There were a bunch of us there. I was there with him. They chased him all the way down the hill, and he jumped in the swimming pool. The next day, he's at practice. He's smiling. I didn't know he hated it. He just got stung by a whole nest of hornets. He's still there. He's smiling. So the news tonight was all news to me, Rick. I didn't know. The next guy's Rob Boyer. I'm not going to talk much about him because he was here 3 years ago. He's one of the best athletes that Kiski had. He's the best athlete that I ever coached. And he's the one who got that 5th place for us against University School. So a jumper can run sometimes. Troy Cook was our freshman who couldn't run that day. Troy ended up getting the 2nd best time in the 2-mile in Kiski history at the time. And we could have used him, but luckily, we had Rob there. But Troy was a good runner. I wish he was here tonight. Todd Romali. Oh my, he was here tonight. Most fun guy. Absolutely the most fun guy to be around. He showed up for practice once, and he takes off his Kiski blazer, and there's almost no shirt there. It's just the front of the shirt with a tie. There's no sleeves, there's no back, there's nothing. And I said, Todd, what are you doing? He said, we have some teachers here that won't let us take our jackets off. And he said, it was really hot today. So we had Todd to deal with every day, and Todd was just so much fun. I just remember this quote, and Todd was, a local guy, and Todd loved the outdoors and everything, and there were a bunch of deer in front of us, and he goes, them are deer. And, he just had us laughing all the time. Now, he was Westmoreland County champion at 2-mile. He's a very good runner. And he provided so much more than just the running. We just enjoyed every day being around him. Krishna Singh is not here tonight. Wow. You want to talk about somebody who was serious. He would show up, you would tell him what the interval was. It could be an easy day, it could be a hard day. There was no smile. It was just all business. And he was very polite, very hardworking. He was the guy, if he needed somebody to run through a wall, he would do it. He wouldn't question it. He'd say, okay, Mr. Nagel, I got it. So he's not here tonight. Chris Malahan called or wrote and said he would like to have been here. He's not here tonight either. Chris was number 1 for us in 3 different races. He was a very quiet guy, very dependable. He was there all season. We couldn't have done it without him. I wish he was here tonight. Phil DeHaas. Well, he was selected as head prefect. There was no surprise there at all. I was a new, young coach, lucky to have Mr. Muffley coaching with me, but if I could pick anybody at all, anywhere, to be my captain, Phil was it. Best captain ever. He was always there encouraging the younger runners, the new runners, getting them to come out for the sport. He was the guy. He finished first, I think, like 6 races. It doesn't matter how good he was. He was our number 1 guy most of the time. What mattered was his attitude and what he brought to the meets and to the team. Turnaround wouldn't have happened without him. Thank you. Would the runners please come up?
I'm probably not supposed to do this, but I just wanted to dedicate.
Rob, I didn't know you were here.
I'm Rick Curtis.
Thanks for being here.
To my dad and my mom, Dick and Georgia Curtis, who dedicated most of their lives to this school and to the Kiski boys who went here. They were here for almost 25 years. And they sacrificed everything for this school and for the boys, and they were devoted to it, and they loved it, and they loved the boys, and they did everything they could. And they raised us here, and it was great to be here. And when we left, it nearly broke our family apart, because it was everything for us, the school. And I just want to dedicate this to my parents, Dick and Georgia Curtis.
Yeah, that's Randy. Our final group of inductees is the 1983 baseball team. The 1983 baseball team captured Kiski's first outright interstate prep school league championship after returning only 5 letter winners from the previous campaign. The improved pitching staff was seen as the missing piece that lifted the program to the title. Flawless defense preserved those efforts in close games. Their 19-4 season started with a 9-0 stretch and included a 7-1 league slate. The league title was clinched by a tense 2-0 victory over the University School in the penultimate game. Lex A. Winans will accept the award on behalf of his teammates.
Oh, picture time.
Guy who's okay.
Well, thank you for that introduction, and thank everybody else who spoke tonight. It's quite inspiring. I feel as if I'm enriched by hearing some further history about Kiski that maybe I wasn't involved in, and to be here with one of my main mentors in life, his entire family, or it seems like there's a pigeon in every corner, right? And it's just fantastic to feel that vibe again, because I'm living out in California now personally, and there's nothing like, no place like home. And this place is certainly home in a lot of ways. I'm seeing some major league people in my life. I see this guy tying his shoe on the stairs over there, Orsatti, and see Lombardo's and Nagels, and in particular, although I think she just walked out, Mrs. Vallejos, who's one of my favorite people in the world. I was part of the Glee Club as well. I think Sandy mentioned he was, and I had some ulterior motives because at the Glee Club, we had a tendency to go to the dances, right? And I had ulterior motives, but Mrs. Vallejos, again, it's my pleasure to see you. I thought she was gone. Okay, we'll get on to, let's talk baseball. Okay, well, again, it's really an honor to be here and to be in the Hall of Fame at Kiski. You know, John kind of said it the same way, and you felt every ounce of what he said, along with Alan and all the other speakers that I heard tonight. And I am truly honored to be part of this team. It's not an individual thing. We had a team, and it's to be recognized in this way is fantastic. We had a bunch of guys from a whole bunch of different backgrounds, and we kind of fused together as a team. And it takes more than just having a good first baseman and a good shortstop and a good catcher to be a team. You have to have each other's backs. And we were lucky. We had some hitters. Somebody mentioned during the introduction there about the pitching enhancement, which was obvious. We had Joe Moravsky on our team, and he ended up, rumor has it, he went through the Cincinnati Reds minor league organization before he finally realized he wasn't going all the way. We had a big-time ace, and we weren't doing pitch counts back then. This was, pitch counts were just beginning. This was, if we were playing a good team, Joe was on the mound. And then we had Terry backing him up. We had some good players on that team, and the number 7 hitter was just as fierce as the number 3 hitter, and that made a big difference. And so what I want to do, and although it wasn't part of the senior year, I want to back you guys into time, because there is, to me, and I already did mention the Pigeon name, right? But to me, there's an obligatory, any speaker at Kiski is obliged to talk about, obliged, I think that was a vocabulary word, like 233. 234, there we go. I think to bring Mr. Pigeon, although he wasn't a baseball coach ever, as far as I'm aware, to bring him into the mix, because he was always there. He was always lurking around in the cart and looking down and making sure we were minding our P's and Q's. And one day, I made the team as a sophomore when it was my first year, and I just barely made the team, and I was a pretty good hitter. I was a terrible fielder. So I played first base. Unfortunately, the best player on the team that year was a guy named Arnold Sapio, and he was 6'4", the best hitter on the team, and he was left-handed. And I was just this little kid from Fox Chapel who used to pretend I was Willie Stargell, and so I was a decent hitter. Anyhow, so they threw me a designated hitter. And I think I was a whopping 2 for 12 in the first 3 games. And I started out with 2 hits my first 2 times at bat, and then I went 0 for 10. I came out to Mr. Crawford, who was our head coach, and I told him, I said, sir, no disrespect meant to anybody, but I am a better left fielder than X, who was playing there at the time, and he was a senior. And Mr. Crawford said, well, let's see. So after practice, we had the team practice, and I came up at a very discreet moment to ask this of him. And after practice, I stayed back with Mr. Crawford. Now, this is before Gore-Tex. This was March 30th, 1981, and it was raining, and I had a sweatshirt on and sweatpants on that weren't repelling water. So I was probably about 220 at the time. And I think I truly weighed about $170. So Mr. Crawford sat there and he shagged me balls. He was at home plate just shagging me balls in left field, and I had a lump in my throat. I was so determined to catch every ball that was hit towards me. I was jumping all over. I was diving in the pine trees. And I walked at the end. He goes, "Okay, it's starting to rain too hard. We got to end this." Meanwhile, I couldn't have taken another run. I was so exasperated. And I came here. One of the reasons I even came here is I just wanted to play baseball in that field. I loved that. It was one of the first impressions I had when I drove into the pearly gates. And Mr. Crawford said to me, he said, "You just earned yourself a start tomorrow." We walked off the field, and I was carrying the baseball bats, which was plural, and the big wet bag of baseballs. He had a clipboard that he was trying to cover with a plastic bag. We're walking off the field, and here comes Mr. Pigeon in a golf cart. Now it's really raining. He goes, "Gentlemen, please come here." Said it with this urgency. And Mr. Crawford and I walked up to the cart, and he said, "I'm just trying to bring everybody back to the time and place where we were." He said, "President Reagan was just shot." And we just both reacted, maybe not with a lot of words, but kind of perplexed. Well, is it Mr. Crawford? I was just sitting back, and Mr. Crawford said, "Is he okay?" Because I think everybody at that time still, although it was 17 or 18 years prior, was thinking JFK situation. He goes, "I don't know. They don't know yet." And of course, there wasn't internet and cell phones and all that. We were waiting for the next radio announcement. And I just remember that after my first year there, where I was kind of like John, I just got conned into coming to an all-boys school, staying back a year, and moving away from home. And it was and I did just about everything I could to get booted before the baseball season, but I finally felt like I was part of the whole core of the school, and I just felt like I belonged that day. That was the first day that I truly felt I belonged. I'll never forget that moment. Fortunately, President Reagan made it through, and I got to start in left field the next day, and I had 3 hits. Anyhow, back to our team. We had a good baseball team. Considering that we, like the kids today, didn't jump on a jet and fly down to Florida for 2 weeks and play all the other yuppie little prep schools in all these beautiful these beautiful ball fields. We were in wet sweatshirts, and it was raining, and half of our practices in March, I think we came a week before school started. We're all in the gym, and there was some sort of a robotic arm that threw pitches at you in a batting cage, and we were taking batting practice in the wrestling room, or taking fielding practice in the wrestling room, because it was just a mud slosh out there. So Mr. Crawford, Mr. Coble, the 2 guys that conspired together to make it think that it was my idea, with my father, by the way, to make it think that it was my idea and my decision that I went to Kiski. Coincidentally, they were both in the admissions office. I think Mr. Crawford was the assistant headmaster, and Coble was the, speaking of rain, I think Coble was the director of admissions at the time, or the assistant director of admissions. And I got to interview with both those guys. Mr. Crawford, he had horn-rimmed glasses. He was dry, yet so bright. He really, to me, was a welcoming person, and I think that everybody on the team felt the same way about him. He was our friend, yet we highly respected him. Baseball's kind of a funny sport. Baseball, there's a lot of downtime in baseball. It's not like a football game or soccer game or race and on the track. you're on the bench for half the game, and there's one guy on your team at the bat, and hopefully there's a couple on base, but we had some fun on that bench over the years. I remember, some of the trade. We didn't have Mr. Kozub checking our cheek and gum. Mr. Crawford gave us a little bit more room, because that was part of the bonding process of the team. And that's, like I said before, we didn't have a weak link on the team. We trusted each other. So I'll never forget Mr. Crawford. I'm so sorry that he's not here tonight. Unfortunately, he's unable to be here for health reasons, from what I understand. And I'm very regretful that he's not here, and I'm planning on writing him a letter and letting him know that the night went fairly well. Me coming after all these other illustrious speakers is tough. Now, Mr. Coble, God rest his soul, because he's no longer with us. He was a character. He was quiet and not very social, yet he played baseball at Duke. So the guy knew what he was doing. He was actually the brains behind the organization. Crawford was more the leader behind the organization. And, Coble was on third base, and he's doing all the signs and everything. That was fantastic. And these memories are just fantastic. And, it was a bit of a fraternity that we had. Harry Buell imitating the umpires. It was a riot a minute. Romali, and it was just a riot the whole time. We were fortunate to have some really great athletes on the team as well, specifically Joe Moravsky, and this is no offense to any of the other guys that I'm not mentioning, but Jim Seda and J.D. Null. These are high-end athletes that were on our team, and that sure didn't hurt our cause either. And we were the first team to pull this off for Kiski, so I'm pretty proud of that. 19-4, I thought we were 19-2 until I actually insisted that Steve Szilagyi send me the records, and Mark as well, to send me the record. I was certain we were 9-2, but maybe I just forgot about the three-game stretch that we blew it. All right. Let me shock you guys with the next topic, Shady Side. Well, I played baseball for 2 years before our team, before the 1983 team, and we never touched Shady Side. We got blown out every time we played them. Well, we played them 3 times my senior year, and the first time we played them wasn't a sanctioned Kiski League game. It was just an exhibition, essentially. They beat us 12-3. Here we go again, right? Well, the next time we played them, we beat them in a doubleheader, 3-2, and then once again 3-2, and it was the first time I had ever beaten Shady Side at anything. Well, that's not so true. Wrestling maybe once, but football team never beat them. And we got the most immense satisfaction out of beating Shady Side. It was like World Series time, and I can see I could see you guys smiling up there because it was a big deal. They were really good, but I guess we learned that we were pretty good as well. All right, I'm just going to end this with, since I think we've covered everything, and I tend to be a bit verbose when I'm talking about sports. Our last game, we played University School. And University School was really a good team. We needed to win 1 out of 2 games to win the league for the first time in the history of Kiski. And we won the first game in a brutally tight game. I think it was 3-2. We beat them in the first game. Well, the second game didn't go so well, but we had a shot. We loaded, nobody else remembers this except me. We loaded the bases. We were losing 6-3, and it was the bottom of the 6th inning. We played 6 innings back then. And guess who was at the plate? Me, with my little Willie Stargell imitation. And the first pitch was a called strike. The second pitch was a called strike. The third pitch was somewhere, I don't even remember if it was in front of me or behind me, but I swung as hard as I could, and I went down swinging in 3 pitches to end my baseball career, and to end Kiski's season, but we still were the champs. So that's it for now. Thanks again. So, guys, from the team, come down, please. We're going to take a shot.
Over this side? Right here, good. Get everybody?
Well, everybody, the master plan was that we'd fly through the speeches and we'd be done before the rain. Clearly, that didn't work out. So Mark Roadhamel is getting umbrellas to help us out. I just wanted to quickly, again, welcome you all home and say what a pleasure it is to have you back. The rain is supposed to be gone by tomorrow, and we hope to see you all back, those who can be with us. It's a nice day. You'll get to see the students, you get to see our scholar athletes, and you'll get to see the campus in motion. And it's still wonderful, and the kids are as gritty as ever. You'll be very proud of them. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee, the folks who do so much work behind the scenes, Chris Spahn, Mary Grace Muster, Kim Matvey, Mark Roadhamel, and Damian Williams. They do so much work that we don't know about, and they pull this whole thing together for us. So just like to give you guys a round of applause. And we're going to try something new this year. They tell me it's going to work, and I know you guys can pull it off. We'd like to do a group photo up here with all the recipients. So if you all could come up, Becky thinks she can pull this off, and I'll just get out of the way and let you do it. All right? Congratulations, everybody.